Hi, I'm Helen Bauer, and this is the Heart of Hospice Podcast. The Heart of Hospice Podcast is your source for compassionate and informative discussions about hospice and end-of-life care. I'm a certified hospice and palliative care nurse with over 15 years of experience. Whether you're a caregiver, someone with a serious illness, or you simply need to know more about hospice care, this podcast is for you. Join me as we explore all the aspects of hospice, from the details of caregiving to the emotional and spiritual dimensions of end-of-life journeys. For more resources and to connect with me, visit theheartofhospice.com and find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Keep listening for today's episode.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
This episode of the Heart of Hospice Podcast is being sponsored by bkbooks.com. Barbara Carnes and her team at BK Books have created the Approaching Death Support Kit to help educate and support families with clarity and compassion. This new bundle is a practical, ready-to-use resource for the bedside and includes many of Barbara's most trusted booklets. For more information, visit bkbooks.com or see the show notes for the link to bkbooks.com.
My guests today are hospice nurses Amy Hensley and Erin Putney of Before the Casket. My guest, Amy Hensley, is an RN, holds a Master of Science in Nursing, and she defines herself as a mama bear and a compassionate hospice nurse. She believes that change can come from the uncomfortable. Amy spent nearly 20 years in graphic design before going to nursing school. Her passion for end-of-life care guided her to become a hospice nurse and an end-of-life educator. Along with Erin Putney, she co-founded Before the Casket. Erin is also an RN who holds a Master of Science in Nursing. While working as an oncology and trauma ICU nurse, Erin realized that she was seeing patients and families experience unnecessary guilt because they hadn't had those all-important end-of-life conversations. You can find information about Erin at teachingcourage.com, and you can find Before the Casket and all the classes they offer at beforethecasket.com. So in our conversation today, Amy and Erin talked with me about how they decided to start Before the Casket and the needs that they saw. In the classes they're providing, they give hands-on guidance to help their students, whether they're lay people or healthcare workers, to create an advanced care plan and get more comfortable with conversations about death. Because of their experiences in ICU and as end-of-life educators, they've seen the worst-case scenarios where there's no advanced care plan and the consequences of not having a plan. So Before the Casket offers classes for non-medical individuals as well as healthcare professionals from every discipline and every experience level. So those who are well-heeled and very experienced all the way across to those who are very new in healthcare as well. So this is a great conversation. You're going to love these ladies. They're hilarious, they're warm, and they're doing some fantastic work. So sit back and enjoy. There's a lot to learn. Amy and Erin, welcome to the Heart of Hospice Podcast. I'm so glad to have you both, and a little scared too.
Oh, Helen, why are you scared of us? We're awesome.
I know, but there's a lot of awesomeness. I think between the three of us, we're going to get into some trouble this afternoon.
I think, yeah, you're probably right. We have a lot of energy going on here.
We do.
I like it. I like it.
Today it's getting warm. That the winter drugs are starting to come off of us, so we want to have some good energy coming in.
Yeah, the sun is shining. We're starting to feel a little of the summertime's coming. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I think that could be dangerous, but we're going to use our power for good today.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I want to get to know you guys just a little bit. So I'm going to ask you an icebreaker question that I didn't share with you. So it is an unknown. And Erin, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
What is one of your end-of-life care superpowers?
Ooh. So my background is ICU trauma. So I feel like I was really good at going into rooms, and being able to like feel the energy of the room and feel like where we had different people on that spectrum of comfort with end of life, or like where they were in the acceptance of their loved ones' challenge or future, because obviously they were on a ventilator, weren't able to speak, and so as the patient, but the family was the one in the room, right? And so knowing and being able to feel that energy and being able to kind of guide them to get them the knowledge and the experience that they needed to be able to make the decisions as a family, or as a, what they needed to for that loved one in the bed.
That's huge. That is huge. It's reading the room in a really intense way, in a situation where emotions are very heightened. There may be disagreements, discord. They may have had years where they have been grieving in an anticipatory way, or this may have been something that happened yesterday and they're having all of it hit them in the face right then. And having that particular skill or superpower to be able to read a room like that, that is a huge, huge gift to be able to have.
Yeah.
I'm glad you can do that.
It's exhausting because you want to like give everyone their individual time and space. Right. And everyone processes at different paces. And so you have to try and figure out how to match it with them. But yeah, I mean, we could usually get people to where they needed to be most of the time. I mean, you couldn't get all of them on the same plate sometimes, but we could get most of them there, and just help them focus and deal with the reality of what was going on.
Well, it's hard to walk into a room of, say you've got family visiting 6 or 8 people. I don't know how many they would let in, but you're not going to go to each person and say, "Hi, what's your relationship to this person who's in the bed, and how are you feeling about what's happening today?"
Right. And you get the son from, I always say, like the son from Texas, or the daughter from California or New York or wherever, that hadn't been there and they hadn't seen their mom like in 10 years. Yeah. And so the last time they had seen mom, she was in the garden doing all the things, and they hadn't seen that slow progression of aging and disease process or whatever. And so then you have the person that's sitting right next to the bed, that's been the caretaker, that's been there, that's watched the whole process happen. And so they're at a very different spot than that loved one who's been far away. And so huge challenge to get all of them back. And I would have to start with, like, when's the last time you saw mom? When's the last time mom was able to get in the garden, and starting to bring in those anchor points and move forward. But yeah, you had to, I mean, anger is a real deal. And yes, I had to, right. And I got real good at having real broad shoulders, knowing that anger wasn't ever really at me. It was more just at the universe and the situation, but trying to get them all into that same space and come to terms with, like I said, the reality that was in front of us, and deciding what best options that mom wanted us to make at that time. Yeah. So yeah, those were not fun nights always, but I always loved that I could walk away knowing that the family as a collective was able to come together and help each other make decisions and have discussions that they weren't always able to have, at the family reunions and stuff.
Yeah, that's a really useful skill. I'm sure you use that quite a bit. Okay,
Yeah.
Amy, we're going to shine the spotlight on you now. What's one of your end-of-life care superpowers?
I would say probably my mama bear. She comes out to advocate for what the patient needs. I've had medical power of attorneys say to my face, well, I'm her power of attorney. I'm going to do what I want. And so being able to advocate for what the patient needs and educate the usually the medical power of attorney on what's going, whatever it is. If it's, no, she's not going to eat the macaroni and cheese, she's unresponsive, or yes, she needs the morphine and Ativan, and this is why, and let me explain to you how it works in the body, and whatever it is, I will advocate for what the patient needs. I don't care who I'm up against. Mama Bear comes out.
I love it. I hope that there's a little bit of Mama Bear in every one of us that works at the bedside and end-of-life care, no matter what our disciplines are. But that's an amazing thing. I have some really fantastic friends that they are, mother hospice, and you can almost see them get taller and bigger and broader when the Mama Bear comes out. It's pretty awesome to have an advocate like that. It really is. That's a great skill to have.
Thank you.
Okay, before the casket, and I get tickled every time I say it. Amy's going to laugh at me because I said beyond the casket a few times when she and I talked, which sounds a little spooky and completely far out from what we do as hospice nurses. But you guys have before the casket. Tell me how that got started and about the work that you're doing there. Amy, we'll let you field this one.
Okay, so the name of our company came as an accident. We had talked about trying to educate non-medical people about these medical interventions that they've all seen on TV shows. But we were trying to do it in a way where it was comfortable. It was before the crisis happened. And so we were explaining what our workshop was going to look like and the environment it was going to be in, and people not really understanding what it was I was talking about. They would say, well, I've already got my funeral planned. And I would say, that's awesome. I love that you are pre-planning some of those things, but we are before the casket. And
I got my estate planned.
Yeah, I've got some of that planned.
Right. I have my will. Yeah.
Right.
I have my will, whatever.
Right. We're not lawyers.
No. But whatever that is that they've pre-planned, awesome. That's great. This is one thing you didn't know that you needed, but I just kept saying that to people. And so when it came time for us to name our LLC, I said, this hits all the points because it's weird and people respond in a way that I think you have, Helen, a couple times where you tilt your head like, what did you just say? And, Erin and I are nurses and we have those nurses' sense of humor.
Right.
So
it can get a little dark sometimes.
It can get a little dark.
Absolutely. We're a little twisted. Everybody knows.
Survival mechanism, but yeah, and it's one of those things that hooks too. Like before the casket, people are like, what? And if it feels icky, it sounds awful, you'll remember it, right? Like, or if it gives a feeling, it hooks in there. And so when you do need that, when you get to that stage, then you know to come find us, right? And so that gives it a little bit more to it for instead of, estate planning, So
yeah, that doesn't sound fun at all. Right. Estate planning before the casket. It's a little intriguing. I get that. I like it. Okay. So Erin, tell me what you guys are doing at before the casket.
So we're doing a few different things. The main thing is focusing on education, on end of life education, on kind of what Amy talked about, the different tubes that can get put in, right? And we bring those tubes into places and spaces, and we let people feel them. So we'll bring in an endotracheal tube. It's not being used; it's still clean. But we'll bring that in, and people can feel it, and we'll talk. We try and bring it down to a pretty comfortable level of like, have you ever had surgery? This is probably the tube that put in, especially if you had a sore throat when you came out of surgery, you had one of these in, right? And we'll bring in feeding tubes and different oxygen mechanisms and stuff so people can feel them. We want to demystify the medical stuff. And like, it's so funny because like the language is so important. It's a very different language in medicine. And when you're in that feeling fog of having to make quick decisions, you're not thinking, okay, what was that term that the doctor just used? And so we're trying to plant the seeds of that communication as well by giving the terminology and some of the things so that they can feel them and they're not so scary.
Well, and isn't that the first thing that people think when the doctor or the anesthesiologist said, we're going to put an ET tube in to help you breathe? The first thing people want to know is, what is that? And then the second thing is, where does that go?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And we kind of always, we're really good about being lighthearted and joking. And we'd say that, if you've got a hole, we've got a tube for it. Oh, right. Like,
it's bad, but it's very honest.
It is. And honestly, I'm an ICU nurse. So if you don't have a hole, we got a tube for that too. So, or we'll make a hole for the tube, right? Like, I mean, we like to do things in healthcare. We're good taskers. Sometimes we're not the best listeners. But the other thing is you talked about like the first thing someone would ask is, what is an ET tube? But when you have a surgeon or an anesthesiologist in there, they're in there for 2 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, right? So, and there's an intimidation factor that we're not necessarily asking that question then because we didn't think of it in the moment, or we were in that like shock space. And so we didn't ask it. And so then we just trust that we go into the room and they're going to do what they think we want, or what we think we told them we want. And we want to make sure that people know. They know what they want. They've had those conversations so that there isn't guessing. We often tell people, like, once the tubes start going in, the guessing begins. If you haven't had those conversations before the tubes, you're guessing, and guessing complicates grief. And so we really just want people to know, because we want them to be able to have those conversations on their couches with whiskey or wine or water or whatever, and just have the conversation, start asking the questions and being like, we get the ones like, oh, my aunt, they did this. And so we can help facilitate like, okay, well, it sounds like this is what happened. And we can help them process through that. So that's what we really like to do, is just go have fun, educate, drink some beverage, and see where the conversation takes us.
Well, and don't a lot of people get their healthcare knowledge, if they don't work in it, don't they get their healthcare knowledge from stuff that's happened to their family members that they've heard about, or, God forbid, off of television and movies?
Exactly.
Oh, that's a huge pet peeve of mine. If you think a code only lasts 5 minutes, right, and it's all neat and clean, and the person wakes up and they're bright-eyed and say, hey, what are y'all doing? That's so not real. So it's you guys really bring some reality.
Yeah, we do. And when
so Amy does the like CPR part of it. So I do more like the intubation kind of section of the lesson. And then Amy does the CPR. And it's just, I sit back and watch. I watch the faces, because she does such a great job of bringing in the real-time statistics of the survival rates and what they really look like, and not the TV. On TV, the survival rate's what, like 85% survive on TV, right? You got to have a little bit of drama, so there's a 15% chance that they die. But 85% survive, right? And when we're talking survive, kind of what you talked about, they wake up, they have great makeup, they have great lighting, they get the cute doctor.
Right, and they feel great. They're fixed. Right?
No pain, there's, anything. The reality is very different.
Very much so.
So that's the challenge. But yeah, it's fun to sit back and watch Amy talk about it with them and just be like, oh gosh, here it comes. Oh.
Well, and really, unless you are taking a class like this or you work in even a silo of healthcare, like we do when you're working in hospice and palliative care, you don't pay any attention to those statistics. Those aren't numbers that are useful to you, so most people don't even know about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys offer this, I love the title of it, Sips and Wishes Workshop. Amy, how does Sips and Wishes work? I want to go to one. What would I get out of it? And who am I? If I'm going to go to it, is it really aimed at me? Is it for healthcare providers or how do I get into this?
So Sips and Wishes was designed for non-medical people to attend because we're educating on some really basic medical interventions that relate to 4 body systems: your cardiovascular, your respiratory, your elimination, and your GI tract. So it's interventions that you've heard about: dialysis, you've heard about feeding tubes, being on a ventilator, and CPR. And it's packaged in a way that really anyone can understand, from older teenagers up until 103. So we educate. Erin's already mentioned that we bring the tubes. I show videos. There's statistics. There's stories that I bring. There's also stories that our workshop attendees share, because odds are that somebody in that room either has experienced some of those things themselves, or they've seen it, or we can dispel a myth that they saw on a TV show. So it's really talking about those things in real life. And then we talk about the importance of your medical power of attorney as it relates to those things, because we can decide for ourselves what we want. Today, I got up and I knew what I wanted to wear, what I ate for lunch, the car that I drive. I get to decide that. But if there comes a time when I can't make those decisions for myself, I need to tell somebody who will do then what I want, because they know, just as an example, if I'm laying in a hospice bed and I'm unresponsive, you better not put a bra on me. And I've told my people, don't you dare.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the same goes true for our medical interventions. If there comes a time when your voice no longer works, your medical power of attorney is your voice. They should not be deciding anything. They are just sharing your wishes. But if you haven't asked them if they can do that or told them what your wishes are, then they're going to guess. And then they're going to second guess and guilt and trauma. So the whole purpose, the bigger picture purpose for our Sips and Wishes workshop, yes, is to educate you on these medical interventions, but it's to talk about the most important piece is to have a medical power of attorney and then to have that conversation with them. And we want to do that in this environment where we're just sitting around your kitchen table, on your couch, wherever we are, so that you're comfortable, and not in that emergency room or at the ICU at 2 a.m. And then we also talk about how to document your wishes. If you want to, you can. But really having that conversation is the most important piece. You walk away with a workbook that we developed that you can take notes during the workshop, and then it's a guide for the conversation. We're really proud of it. It's brand new. It's only been around for a couple of months still, but it's a really helpful guide to how to have the conversation with different people in your life, whether it's someone who's going to be a really easy conversation or if it's going to be a little bit harder. So there's just kind of a roadmap on how to have that conversation.
Well, and it's just like, so we talk about this thing called the proverbial green box. So when my grandma, one of my grandmas was getting ready to pass away, my mom would ask her like, hey, Mom, what do you want? What do we need to know? All this stuff. And she goes, I don't need to talk about it. It's in the green box. It's in the green box. She would point to the shelf. It's in the green box. There was an antique, like old file green box in there. when my grandma then went on hospice and was unresponsive and all this stuff, we finally opened the green box. There was nothing in it. The only thing in it was her contract that she had signed when she was 16 with the wrong name as a educator. She became a one-room school teacher out in the middle of nowhere, prairie land, wherever. And it was a contract that she had signed. That was the only thing in that green box. And that's all we had to go by with what she wanted. So while the documentation is important, the conversation is pivotal. Because even if I read your writing, like say you wrote it out meticulously, I may not be able to interpret it the same way that you wrote it out, or you may have it in the green box and there may be nothing in it. So
Wow.
the conversation is so important, on top of learning what we should put in the conversation and what we should have in our documentation.
Were you guys just horrified? I mean, what do you do? What do you do with that? You're beyond the point where grandma you can shake her till her teeth rattle and say, listen, you said there was something in here. This is not what we expected.
Right. And so,
but it made a good story it's kind of a cautionary tale on the importance of actually either checking in the green box or just don't even worry about documenting. Let's just have the conversation, because that is going to save everybody all the headaches, all the fights that are going to happen, all the things. Like, just have the conversation.
Well, and you have to have both. It's not enough to discuss it by itself. It's not enough to document it by itself. You have to have both.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that people don't realize is, like, whoever your POA is, they can change. Like, they can change what you write. People don't realize that. Like, I have coded people who are DNRs, who they have signed documentation that they do not want to be resuscitated. But when family or whoever is the POA says, no, I want you to do something, I want you to try, we have to, because that's the legality piece of it.
Right.
And so if you're going to document, please document who your POA is. And I would request that you choose 1 or 2 people, not 9.
Not 9. No.
Wow.
This is not an equal thing for all your children.
No.
1 or 2.
Yeah.
I can see people's mentality behind that. You have 4 kids and you don't want to show favoritism. I get that. But a medical power of attorney is a
9.
unique role.
I had 9 on paperwork that this little woman did because she didn't want to pick from her 9 children.
Could they reach a consensus? How could they even do that?
No, ma'am, they could not. No, they couldn't decide where they were all going to go to dinner. You think they can all decide what to do with mom? No, don't do that to your hospice nurse.
Don't do that to your family either, because now you've destroyed the family.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, now you've destroyed, because now you've got Timmy who's mad at Tina, right? Because Tina wants to do end of life and Timmy wants to do everything, and he wants to do chemotherapy on a 98-year-old person or something like that, right? Like,
Right.
And so now you've got these 2 siblings who now have animosity and anger towards each other. So the funeral's not going to be a whole lot of fun, and it's not going to be helpful for the healing process, right? Like, grief has to turn into mourning to be able to heal from it or heal with it. Like, we never leave the grief. And that's the other thing that we really try and make sure people know. Grief is the cost of love. We are not here to get rid of grief. Grief is the cost of love. That pain that we feel, while it hurts and it sucks and it's awful, it is beautiful because it comes from connection and love and a human or a person or a pet or something that meant something to you or was part of your identity. We aren't here to get rid of that. But we want you to be able to have that in its pure form, not with all the complications of the guessing and the guilt and the anger and the what ifs.
Yeah.
And the regret and the shame and all the other spirals that then can happen from it, right? So, I mean, please pick 1 or 2. And I really like one. We talked to one lawyer, talked about doing a multi-generational. So yes, do your spouse, but then also do one of your kids or whatever, because, you know, they change over time. And so being kind of fluid and thinking about the possibilities, especially if people only do their spouse. Well, your spouse and you are probably relatively the same age.
Right.
And so that may or may not work, but making sure if you're documenting, pick one or two, pick, people also that can make the decisions that you want them to. We say a lot that this is a gift. This is the gift that you give to people. And so that's a huge piece. I'm a not married person. So I have a 23-year-old and 21-year-old. They're all starting to flip. It's springtime, so they all start having birthdays here. And I remember when one of my sons turned 19 and he's like, Mom, and that's the legal age here for being my POA. And he goes, Mom, I don't think I can do that. I can't make those choices for you. And I was like, Peter, it's not your choice. It's my choice. I made the choice. I gave you my voice. Like, here is the words I want you to say. Here are the things you need that I am choosing that I don't want or that I do want. And you don't have to make the choice. You just have to be the power of my voice. So, and it was just fascinating to watch how he melted. Like, you watched the stress leave because he knew he didn't have to make those choices. I gave them to him. So making sure your POA is important, making sure it's not 9 people, because 9 is ridiculous.
I can't even imagine how that would work.
Oh, the fighting.
It didn't work.
Oh, and then you get the person from Texas or California or New York or whoever, wherever, and they haven't seen them forever. And
Right.
yeah, and they're their POA.
A seagull family member who comes in,
Right.
flies in, hasn't seen mom in 5 years, and poops all over everything.
Right.
That's what we call them. It's kind of sad, and I get the motivation behind it. Maybe there's some guilt. Maybe there's some regret that I took vacations, but I never went to see mom who lived 5 states away. And now look where we are. And I feel like I need to take on my responsibility and find my role in this. And I second guess because I want the best for mom, and I feel guilty about my neglect of this person.
Yeah.
We're going to break for just a minute. This isn't the end of the episode. There's more to come, so stay connected.
This episode is being sponsored by bkbooks.com. If you're caring for someone at the end of life, whether you're a hospice professional or a family caregiver, you know how important it is to have the right support and information. Barbara Carnes, award-winning end-of-life educator and hospice pioneer, has created a bundle of booklets that's an essential resource for anyone supporting a dying person. The Approaching Death Support Kit from BK Books offers practical guidance and compassionate insights that ease fear and help caregivers know what to expect during the dying process. The bundle includes many of Barbara's most trusted booklets: Gone From My Sight, By Your Side, The 11th Hour, Pain at End of Life, and her newest title, Always Offer, Never Force, and more. All designed to gently guide families through one of life's most sacred and challenging moments. Whether you're a nurse, social worker, chaplain, or end-of-life doula, this kit is a powerful tool to support your work. And if you're a family caregiver, this was made for you too. These resources offer compassionate answers when you need them most. BK Books offers quantity discounts for teams, agencies, and families. So visit bkbooks.com to explore the Approaching Death Support Kit. See the show notes for this episode for a link to bkbooks.com.
So when you choose a medical power of attorney, I believe that having those decisions set out in your documentation is super important. But a lot of those documents don't cover the more atomic decisions. And I think that may be where medical power of attorney folks get caught up. I get the reversal of decisions. I've seen that happen. A medical power of attorney who is not going to be able to abide by your wishes if they have a different religion or spiritual beliefs, that can be a huge game changer. The minute you become unable to make your own decisions, then they reverse everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any legal recourse other than taking somebody to court and stopping that.
It's not, but that's why it's so much of a part of our workshop is you need to ask them, are you going to be able to do what I want? This is what I want.
Even if you don't agree with it.
Well, but if they don't agree, then they can say, no, I don't think I will be able to.
Right.
And then you could say, okay, thank you for being honest. And then you can go pick somebody else and
Right.
ask them.
Next in line. Yes.
Yep, exactly. Because it doesn't have to be your spouse. It doesn't have to be your firstborn child. It doesn't have to be your mom. You can choose whoever you want, but you just have to tell them what you want, tell them your wishes, have that conversation, and then document that they are your medical power of attorney.
So that's where the problem with not choosing somebody lies.
Yes.
Because depending on the state you're in, I think almost every state, the first designated person is the legal spouse.
Yes.
And then it goes to the oldest child.
Yes.
So if you're unmarried and you don't have any children,
then what? Mm-hmm.
Your social worker is looking for someone who could be your decision maker, first of all, who is willing,
Yep.
Yeah.
is available. And of course, you've probably got someone who's distant from you who doesn't know what you would want or how you lived your life in the first place. So that medical power of attorney, if that's the only choice, only decision that you make and document, that's the most important one.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Truly is.
It truly is. And it, like I said, it can save a family, right? Like it can save a family having these conversations, because then it's, I'm making this decision. I'm making the decision that mom wanted, or I'm making a decision dad wanted, or whatever. Like the decision, this is what it is. So like, I just, what do they say? Like the two things that bring out the most heartache and trouble and stress are weddings and funerals. So, and it's because people are just in such intense emotions during those spaces and times, and it can destroy a family. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it happen to families
So
where
many times.
It's just, please, for your family, give them this gift. And so that's one thing we hit really hard. Just please pick someone.
Yeah.
You do not want your family falling apart.
No, and it's a lot of times it's a lifelong division that never ends.
Yeah.
That can't be repaired.
Yeah.
It's really sad. And I kind of joke that I like my kids. I want them to keep having a relationship after I'm gone. So I'm going to do everything in my power to keep them on the same page and give them that gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if I'm a healthcare professional who's interested in the courses you offer at Before the Casket, because you offer some stuff for healthcare workers as well, what do I need to know about those courses?
So what we've made is we can come and do like one-off 1 hour pockets of continuing education hours. So typically we cater to nurses a little bit more, but welcome everyone. We have CEUs for nurses. So that part's really fun. But what we have, the one we really have that we love is our death essentials. And we say that they're skills that you shouldn't learn on the floor. And both of us, so we met as nurse educators at a local community college. We both taught in the nursing program. And then over time, my master's degree is research was effective end-of-life education for nurses. And so I took that workshop that I had used in my master's research, and then we morphed it a little bit, updated. I always update. I can't handle if it stays the same too much. So it's the same key factors, but it's a 6.5 hour workshop because it's like immersive, like it's an all day workshop. We've got to get into that vulnerable space. We've got to get into that end of life discussions. The other thing that I think that healthcare workers really need is a safe space to have these conversations, right? Like we see things no one else does, right? We see, like, I cannot go home after a bad night in ICU and sit at my dining room table and eat cereal with my kids in the morning and tell them about the 16-year-old that I just had to get transitioned to organ donation, right? Like, I don't get to have those conversations. So one of the first things we do is we give a safe space to have those conversations. We do kind of a mini death cafe. We talk about barriers. We talk about skills. that are needed, the difference between hospice and palliative, what hospice looks like. So a lot of information, but it's really much more of a reflective workshop. I don't like to sit and lecture for a long time, so no one needs to hear my voice for that long. So we really like to have people asking questions, pulling in case studies and putting them out there, and then exploring and working on them together. And then people will walk away with kind of some of the same stuff from the workshop, the same facts that we give the other people, give the non-medical people, but then also how to start a conversation. So we really focus on build a relationship, give the facts, and then give the control back to the patient and the family. Because I think one of the big things that also healthcare workers have is we try and take on burdens that are not ours. And so we really want to give people that, like, I've got to give this back to the family. It's not my decision whether we code an 83-year-old woman or not. I have given them the education, though, so that they can make the decisions. And I built the relationship with them so that they know where the learning, or where they can trust it, right? Like it's just giving them the facts, giving them the guidance, giving them the support so they can make the hard decisions, because we have made death the enemy in healthcare, and it's coming at a cost for all of us. And so it's a big challenge. And so we've got to be able to walk both lines of it, and we've got to really advocate for the patients and what their wishes are. But the workshop really is, it sounds weird. It's a fun day.
About death.
Right. It's a fun day about death, like, because we got to keep it humorous, right? Like there's no point in like not laughing. We're going to get in the feeling fog a couple times during the day. We show some videos that can really cut and hurt. But again, we create a safe space to be in that. And then we create a community of people who are working through the same ideas. And then we give you a skill to walk away from that you can use as soon as you walk out the door, either with your family, you can use it with the next day that you work on the floor, but really giving people a skill of how to start the conversation, because that's something that I see new grads walking out and they're so focused on the task, right? They've memorized the algorithm, they've memorized the book, and their patient doesn't look like that. Right. And so really giving people some of those skills so they can walk away feeling that they got something out of it, but also they were able to share and lift something out of them as well, and not have to have all of that insight, because it's hard. It's hard. I mean, I worked COVID, I've worked ICU trauma. Like, it's what we see is hard, and we need to build those communities to support one another. And we got to have some extra skills to be able to work through it.
But one of the things that I really like about the workshop, though, is it doesn't matter where in nursing you work.
Oh yeah.
Everything that you're learning works in every area of nursing. You don't have to work trauma ICU. You don't have to work ER. You don't have to work hospice. You could have that door opened for you by a patient after an ortho surgery. You just don't know, and you have to be. We want you to be confident and comfortable if someone says something to you that is like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, or I don't know if I want to come back to the hospital again. I keep breaking things and I don't know if I want to come back. So what do you say to that? And so this workshop just gives nurses so many things that we can think about, and process for ourselves, our own things that we're bringing into that room, but also like not run screaming from the room if a patient says that, because they opened that door, they trusted us enough to say that. And so we want to honor what they're saying, and
they'll only say it once.
They'll
only open the door once. Right. And if you're like, oh, I need to go give pain pills over here, right? Like if a patient's like, is my husband dying? And you're like, I need to go over here. Like you've just broken that trust, right? Like They were testing to see if that trust was there. And so, yeah, we want them to be able to anywhere, right? We want them to be able to have some skills to answer those questions, to to sit in that space with people, that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength. And we want to make sure they have that ability, because that's not something we necessarily learn in school. We should, we don't. So,
No.
And that's the challenge, right?
I love it. I love it. So for this course, nurses for sure. What about social workers, chaplains?
Yep. And really anybody who works in healthcare can get a lot out of this workshop. And it doesn't really even matter what age you are, because, Erin mentioned we worked in a community college. We had some of our students who were 18, 19 years old, but had lived a whole life, before they walked in the door. And so it doesn't matter where you come from. It just matters that you want to come and learn how to be better. And so, whether that's pastoral care, nurses at any level, LPN, RN, APRN, CNAs, social workers, physicians, because we know that, physicians rarely get much education about something that's going to happen to each and every one of us. So they are welcome to attend also.
We really don't get the education in nursing school that we need for end of life.
Right.
Yeah, I got a little bit.
I got an hour, and it was organ donation.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reason I remember, because it was like a speaker that came in for organ donation and spoke for an hour. And so that's what my research showed, was that we're doing a really crappy job. But it also showed that 6 hours is the tipping point. So that's one reason why it's a 6.5 hour. 6 hours is of education is where we start to build comfort with having those end of life conversations. So, because I try not to geek out on the research part of it, but I'm a nerd. And so, I didn't want a before and after survey. What I did with the research is I asked them after they graduated and they were in their career, how comfortable they were with their first death. And it was fascinating to see what came back. And it was the ones that remembered having 6 hours or more of education had increased comfort. So it was, and so that's why it's 6.5 hours. Like, there's a method to the madness.
Yeah. We've had people ask if they, can we shorten the workshop? Well, we can, but you're not going to get near as much out of it.
Yeah. You're going to miss a piece.
Yeah. It's a very deliberate, thoughtful agenda, with both, facts, feelings, time to share, time to practice, time to eat,
time to ask questions,
and build that community.
That's the kind of stuff that sticks. Because you can read a book about all of this stuff. You can hear a lecture, listen to a presentation at a conference, but the immersive experience, being able to talk, being able to role play, to process feelings and reflect back on things. So I was trying to think about the first time I ever actually saw someone die. So I practiced in the hospital, worked in the hospital for a year and a half before I went into home health. And in home health, you're in and out very quickly into someone's home. You do your thing, they get better and they're discharged off. That's the whole goal and the role of home health. So I never saw someone die in a non-clinical way until I was in hospice. I had been a nurse for 15 years before I did that.
Right. You're a rarity.
You are rare.
Most is the first 6 months.
Wow. I mean, I had seen someone die in the hospital, but they had a code team that was designated, and I was a fairly new nurse, so the code team comes in and takes over everything, thank God. And it was a very clinical death. It was a code with all the medicines being pushed, this team was doing all these things, and the patient died. But I don't remember seeing a chaplain. There was no family at the bedside. There was no conversation afterwards with the staff to provide bereavement or grief support for us.
Nope. You get to go.
Yeah.
You get to go next door, and then go home and sit and have breakfast with your kids.
Yeah, it was very medicalized.
Right, and that's the hard part. Is like, my family knows. Like, if I've come home and I go straight to the shower, they don't even ask me how my day went. right? Like, because they know something bad happened and I need time to process. But yeah, like there's no space for that humanity piece reflective for the team working, right? We'll give the family the space if they're there, we'll give them the time, but then we got to go get the orange juice for the person next door, or we've got to go get the other person ready for surgery, or we've got to, you know what I mean? Like there's no like, oh, something big just happened.
Yeah, there's no moment for debriefing. There really isn't.
And there's no, I never saw a manager come check in. My first death was horrible. I was oncology, and it was a 20-something-year-old who had an acute reaction and they bled out. And like we're rapid infusing blood in this 20-something-year-old young girl. And I'm sitting with her mom on the floor in the hallway watching all this stuff happen. And I have no way of helping her because I'm in such shock and don't know what I'm doing. And like never once did a manager or anyone come to me and ask, hey, Erin, that was a big death. That was icky. Let's talk about it, right? No one ever checked in on me, right? So I want to make sure, that's probably one of my reasons I'm so passionate about helping new grads and helping nurses and anyone that walks this path, because we have to start being our own advocates. We have to give ourselves permission to have safe spaces with each other. Now, if we had a bad trauma night, man, we were going out to the bar in the morning and, beer and bagels. So, I mean, but that we created our own community, which was great. But when you're a new grad, like that's tough.
Right. Nurses have a tendency to eat their young.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to stop that.
We're working on that too.
Yeah.
Culture. Yeah. We're working on a few things in our culture change, right? Like don't eat our young.
we want to complain about how we're burned out and the workforce is too small. The silver tsunami's coming and we know we don't have enough people, and yet we can't nurture these new people coming in.
Yeah. The kind of interesting thing is we actually don't have a nursing shortage. When you run the numbers, we don't have it. We actually have a surplus of nurses in the United States. But we have a shortage of nurses willing to work in the system because they get burned out because of situations like that. Like they can't handle the moral injury that keeps happening to them on a daily basis. Right. And so they're not healing. There's no heal time. There's no check-in. There's no support for them. They have to go home and now take care of their kids. They have to go home and be human, right? Like I remember one time I went to one of my kids roller skating. He was in roller hockey, and I had a pretty traumatic young death that was about his age. And I was like, I just need to go see kids being kids because I just had dealt with this. Mm-hmm. And I sat at that roller rink bawling, and the parents are looking at me like I'm crazy. And one person knew where I worked, and they had watched the news and had put two and two together, and they knew. And thank God she came and sat with me. She wasn't medical. She wasn't my friend, really. I mean, she was a hockey mom. I knew her, but she put two and two together, and she came and sat with me. And she has no idea how much that helped me in that moment. Yeah. But she didn't ask me questions. She didn't want to know. She didn't, but she knew. Right. And so like, that's the thing. We have to support one another. We have to build those communities. Our managers aren't going to support us. Good managers do. Good managers are going to reach out, and I know managers, I'm not trying to awfulize on managers. They got lots on their plates and they're trying to make people happy and trying to balance and all the things.
Sure.
For whatever reason, right? But we're going to have to create that community for ourselves, right? Grassroots efforts of building each other up and supporting our young nurses as they're coming up so they can stay in the system. So, but it's really, really interesting, the challenges that are coming, because they aren't necessarily the challenges that are on the media. They're the challenges within. And so we have to be the problem solvers for that. That probably was a really weird tangent.
That's okay. We're chasing a few rabbits, but it's a great conversation. So like you're saying, it's not the numbers. It's not the number of nurses. It's the number of nurses that are willing to work.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I know after the pandemic, I saw a lot of very good hospice nurses say, you know what, I need to be done. Yeah. I need to be done for a while.
Yeah.
I left the bedside.
Or at least for a while. We have to be able to know about ourselves, how much gas we still have left in our tank.
Right.
And know when it's time to take a break and do something else for a little while. And, it'll always be there if we want to come back to it.
Yes, this is true.
The next part about nursing, right, is that when you're ready to take a break from that type of nursing, you can go do other nursing, right? Like that's the nice part of it. And there's nursing jobs out there that people don't even know exist. I didn't know. We have a friend that works with Epic, the charting system, and so she's not doing patient care, but she gets to train doctors and do all that kind of stuff in the system. So there's lots of jobs out there, but bedside's hard. Bedside is definitely a hard space to be in.
Our time's almost over. So I want to toss one at you that we didn't talk about. I want to ask you just briefly, Amy, what's your favorite go-to self-care habit right now?
Oh, boy. I love getting pedicures and massages. Anytime I can go to the beach. If I can't actually go to the beach, I will sit in my office and look at all my beach stuff in my office because it calms me. Just even thinking about being in the ocean and how calming that is for me, that is powerful. And I'm also an introvert, so just being in my house by myself helps.
Just alone. Okay, Erin, how about you? What's your go-to self-care habit right now?
I was gonna say, I'm afraid you were gonna ask that. So I'm really struggling with that. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm really struggling with it. I'm currently have a new job as an educator, so I'm creating a lot of new coursework. I have children who are struggling with mental health, and so balancing that, I'm working on my doctorate. I do this. So this is probably one of the things that's the best self-care is just coming and having honest conversations and opening up community and having connections with people. So probably more the extrovert realm, and being able to be distracted from all the to-do lists and all the weight of the world that I have, but also like community is huge for me. And I probably said that word way too many times, but really knowing and connecting with people, because we can't do it by ourselves, right? Like I think I made the comment the other day of like one tree doesn't make a forest, right? And so we've got to build those forests, and that's my love is going out in nature. The ocean kind of scares me. It's big. It can swallow you up and not have a problem with it. I like the mountains a little bit.
But
I like people
climbing
climbing
off a mountain.
Yeah, but then you're done and they can find your body later.
Oh my gosh. Tomato, tomato. One woman's self-care is another person's hazardous activity. I get you. I get you. Yes. You guys are awesome.
I was just going to say, this is why we are so good together, is because, we are it's opposite in so many things, but it works so well together.
Oh yeah. You bring the balance. I love that. So it makes a full conversation. It's perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So how can my listeners find Before the Casket and take advantage of some of the courses that you have to offer?
So our website is very easy to find because it's called beforethecasket.com. All of the information about us, if you want to read our silly bios, they're on there. If you want to learn about the Sips and Wishes workshop, it's available in different formats. If you want to find out about our Death Essentials workshop, it's on there. If you want to have us come to a conference and do one breakout session, we have lots of things to choose from. If you want us to come to your conference and be your pre-conference, we can do Death Essentials for a pre-conference.
You can even go to we're going to an oncology office, in a week or two, like they're just having a day where they have us come, because we already have the certification for the CEUs. So they're having us come and do the whole office because they feel like they need it right now. They're having some big struggles with some end of life, and even the secretaries and the schedulers and all are coming too.
Draw lab, everybody interacts with their patients, and so they see the value in learning about their own grief journey and their own how do I answer a question when this kind of question comes up? What do I say? So yeah, we're going to go educate the whole office. So that's an option. This is our company, so we can come to you and do whatever it is that you need.
Thank you guys so much for this conversation. You do bring such wonderful energy. I'm so glad to have you both on the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
It was fun.
It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to the Heart of Hospice podcast. Check out our sponsor in the show notes, and please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We would appreciate it if you would share this episode with your friends and family and anyone who needs to know more about hospice. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.